Check, check, check. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So I have my mic plugged in, but not turned on. You got to press the power button. And so here we are, Nomad Brad coming to you from the roof of my box truck. So we're on the top of a mountain. It's a little bit windy, so bear with me. If the audio gets terrible, then we'll have to take it inside. But I really just wanted to hang out on the roof in nature, kind of share that with you guys. And I've really been enjoying my time out here in the wilderness, my solitude. And so I wanted to do the live stream from up here, just kind of see what's going on, check in with the people, check in with the community. Snakes. I haven't seen any snakes. I saw a big lizard. Yeah, so I'm using Starlink right now. The satellite dish is right next to me, if you can see it right there. I got the router in my house, in my home on wheels. It seems to be working pretty good. So I've had a couple situations where I'm not like completely out of the trees, and it still seems to work pretty strong. Slightly better than Home Depot. I appreciate you. Um, so yeah, the Starlink's been working great. I'm super happy with it. I haven't had any issues. I had some issues doing a live stream weeks ago, but it was my fault. I had the settings incorrect. And so my laptop was like outputting, I don't know. It wasn't right. But it seems like with the iPhone, I think it's a lot more fluid. Let me know what you guys think. Um, if this like feels more smooth and the video doesn't like start and stop and lag. But I think it was an issue with my laptop. Um, yeah, so Lisa H is asking about bears. There's definitely bears up here. In fact, um, you know what's funny is every morning I get up and go for a walk and I walk around the campsite. I'm very observant. So I always notice things that are different. And when I was walking yesterday morning, I was looking at the side of my box truck and on my window, the window that's up above my bed, there was a big paw print. And I know it was fresh because it was dusty and it was right on the glass. And, I look at my van all the time. I haven't seen that paw print at all until yesterday morning. And so keep in mind my window, like I stood up, it's going to be in next this Sunday's video. I'll cover everything, but the when I stand next to my rig, the window is like 8 inches above my head. So whatever animal created that paw print was able to stand up and reach like 6 feet in the air. So I'm pretty sure it was a bear. I'm surprised it didn't wake me up because it looks like he leaned against the rig. And I had another situation before where I was sleeping and the rig started moving and I woke up immediately. But anyway, I haven't seen a bear, but I have a bear track. Definitely something to bear in mind. I appreciate you. Daryl coming in with a super chat. Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate you. Um, so I haven't seen a bear, but I know there's bears in the area. I did see a coyote. So since I've been up here, I've been here 5 days now. I've seen a coyote. I saw wild horses. I saw a big fat lizard, a really cool green lizard, like almost iguana size. It was huge. And then I saw a hummingbird. In fact, one morning a hummingbird flew up and it was like trying to get in my window screen. And so I woke up and I was like, what's that buzzing sound? And I peeked behind me and there was a hummingbird right there. So that was pretty cool. Um, so that's what I've seen up here. No bears, but I know they're here. I do have self protection devices, so I'm not really worried about it. I think for the most part with animals, they're mostly trying to avoid humans. And so typically they're more cautious of us. And so, unless there was a situation where like a bear was super hungry or maybe you encountered like the cubs, then that could be an issue. But I don't think like there's a lot of bears that attack people up here. Anyway, so that's the story on that. It's really beautiful at night up here. So there's almost no light pollution, right? There's no city lights, nothing like that. So I can see very clearly at night. So I have been out in the evening watching the sky. I haven't seen anything too crazy. I did I did see online that there was some kind of a big event that was visible in Arizona the other night, but I wasn't outside for it, so I didn't get to see that. But overall, just lots of stars, and it's been really nice. And so I'm just really enjoying my time here, but it's coming to an end. I'm gonna go. Oh, another cool thing. So just so you guys know, I'm in Sholo, Arizona, northern Arizona. Not super northern, but more northern than the Phoenix metro. I'm about 3 hours from Phoenix, up in the mountains. I'm like 6,000 feet elevation, and this camp spot that I'm at, it's totally free. It's in the national forest. You can camp for free up to 2 weeks, and I have not seen another person the whole time I've been here. I have seen a couple cars driving down the main road, but I haven't really seen any people. And what's awesome is I'm only 5 minutes from downtown Sholo. Like, and that's what's cool about some of these mountain towns is that you don't have to go far to end up in free camping and in beautiful scenic locations. And what's cool about this spot, this is called the Mogollon Rim. And so you can see the elevation that I'm at from the top of my truck. I'm actually looking down into the valley. So it's like you're on the edge of a mountain, and the window inside my box truck for my working desk is literally right in front of this mountain view. So every day that I've been working here, I just sit at my computer and I look out the window and I see just this huge canyon, all the trees. That's how I saw the coyote. I was just working at my desk and the window's right in front of me. And so I saw this coyote kind of coming up, running across by the window. So it's been super nice. And I've really appreciated being out in nature. Um, for those of you that watch my channel, basically all winter I've been in the city, right? I've been in Yuma. Um, I did spend a little bit of time out in the desert doing some stealth camping, but it's been a lot of city living, a lot of stealth camping in the cities and in town and in parking lots. And I really needed some solitude. So it's really been nice to get back out into nature and just have total peace. And for me, this is really how I'm able to recharge my batteries is just being by myself in nature. I can go for a couple walks a day in nature, explore the area, and I don't have a lot of outside influence. I'm not having to you know work with other people's energy and other people wanting pieces of my energy. So it's been super relaxing and I feel really really good about it and super grateful to be up here. And of course I'm super grateful for all of you guys um supporting me, watching the videos. We did just cross 80,000 subscribers. I'm grateful for that. I'm so excited to have 80,000 people that at least liked my one of my videos enough to subscribe. So I'm grateful for that. Hopefully we can hit 100K by the end of summer. That'd be fantastic. My birthday is in August 16th, and so I'll be 40. And how cool would that be if I could hit 100K subscribers around my birthday? That would be just an awesome birthday present. I'd appreciate that. So I'm putting it out there into the universe. We'll see what happens. And what I want to talk about a little bit is being alone out in nature. And so one of the questions people ask me most often is, are you lonely? And I had to really do a lot of thinking about that because the reality is I'm not lonely. And my parents tell me like, I should have somebody and not be so isolated. And so I've been kind of struggling with that because I really enjoy my solitude. Super chat coming in from Super Dave. Thank you, Super Dave. I appreciate you. The videos are rolling out. New one coming out Sunday. And so I came across this video by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I want to tell you really quick. He has this term called conscious solitude, and that's where you are choosing to be in solitude. And so what he has mentioned is the world we live in right now, it's very busy and it's very noisy and we're constantly connected in person and especially digitally through social media and apps and TV and podcasts. And what happens is when you're constantly receiving external stimulus from outside sources, every time you get a like on an Instagram post or a friend tells you they like your outfit or whatever, you're getting a little dopamine hit. And so he explained that those dopamine hits run on the same neural pathways in your brain as, um, like drug addiction. So those dopamine hits become like a drug. And what happens is the dopamine hits feel good, but they don't last. And so over time, we need more and more dopamine to try to feel good. And that's why I think a lot of people, including myself, tend to feel burned out in modern society with all the noise, all the constant stimulus. But what Dr. Joe Dispenza says is once you choose conscious solitude and you spend prolonged times by yourself in nature, your brain rewires itself and it transitions from seeking dopamine from external sources and it starts creating high levels of serotonin. And serotonin is called the happy drug because it can bring on feelings of euphoria. And when I read that, my brain just lit up because that's how I feel when I get out to the mountains. Like when I pulled up to this spot 4 days ago, I felt high. I was jumping around. I was excited. The views were beautiful. I was hearing the birds chirping. I felt better than I've felt in the last 4 months alone in the forest. Why is that? And I think there's some truth to that. It's when you're alone in nature with your thoughts, you're getting off that dopamine addiction and your brain is rewiring itself and you're creating your own happiness. And so, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I think a lot of people feel the burnout from the constant intensity that is modern society. And so, if you guys are experiencing that, a big relief and a solution and something you might check out is practicing some conscious solitude. And you don't have to live in a vehicle to do that. That could be spending an entire day by yourself on a hike, turn off the phone. It doesn't have to be a complete lifestyle shift, but I think if you start practicing that in smaller doses, you might start to realize that it really feels good and it might kind of shift your perspective on things. And so that's where I'm at practicing conscious solitude. But what's interesting is I want to be clear. I don't I don't dislike people. I don't not want to have a girlfriend, right? But I'm after 7 years of intermittently practicing conscious solitude, I really value my peace and the mental clarity that comes from being in my own space and not having other people's opinions and thoughts and energy in my bubble. And so the way that I operate now is I practice conscious solitude to reset, to recalibrate. Jonathan Rome's coming in with a super chat for Starlink. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate you. And so what I do now is I practice conscious solitude. I reset, I recharge, I feel whole. And then, when I'm ready to go out and associate and go back into the crazy world and go stealth camp in a parking lot and go visit friends, I have a full cup. And so I have a lot more to give because I don't feel drained. And so that's kind of the pattern I've been maintaining for the last 7 years. A lot of time by myself, and then also time with other people and, back in society. But it's really important. And I can feel like deep down, I can feel when I've spent too much time with people and in society because I feel a little bit frazzled. I feel rushed. I feel the speed of modern technology creeping back in. And I start to feel a little bit low. And that's how I know it's time to head for the mountains. It's time to head to Arizona, get up into the pine trees, watch the coyotes, listen to the birds. And so, that's one of the benefits of this lifestyle and something I want you guys to be aware of. Um, I think it can be beneficial for your health. So I hope that resonates with you guys. I just wanted to share that. Um, I'm always trying to just be real and share my experience. And I've been struggling with a little bit of guilt because people tell me I should not be so isolated. But, isolation is like what charges me up, right? So I've been trying to like kind of go to battle mentally and figure out like, am I crazy? Am I some weird recluse? Am I totally off base? And thanks to Dr. Joe Dispenza, he kind of put it into perspective, and I feel like I'm doing okay. We got a comment from Tech. He says, even sleep pattern changes in nature. Yeah, that's something else to consider, right? Is at the end of the day, we're all connected to Earth. We're all part of Earth. And the human cycle really is to go to bed when the sun goes down and to wake up when the sun rises. But in this modern society, we have all these screens and artificial lighting. And so now we can push that boundary. And what you'll notice when you go into nature is as soon as the sun goes down, you're ready for bed. And then when the sun rises, you're ready to get up. And so versus modern day, sun goes down, what do? You go inside, you flip on the LED lights, you put on the television, you got the big screen in your face, you got the little screen in your hand, and it's just keeping you awake. And it's like artificially, it's almost like a drug where it's like stimulating you and keeping you awake, and it's pushing you past your natural sleep cycle. So when you come out into nature, it's really easy to self-regulate, get back into a comfortable sleep. And let me tell you, I feel 100% better um, when I follow that sleep cycle. When I'm in bed by 9, going to sleep, and then I'm waking up at 6 a.m., I feel more energized and rested than if I stayed up till midnight watching YouTube and then I wake up at 10 a.m., right? So it's just another benefit of this lifestyle. Let's see what we got. Kraken Engineer. Oh shit. He says, "Hey Brad, out here with the box truck guys in San Diego. Real chill." I'm happy to hear it, man. I'm happy to hear that Kraken linked up with the box truck boys. They're doing big in San Diego right now. There's a bunch of them out there. Sir on Dave is out there. King Gamer's out there. Mark's out there with his big Isuzu. Jay's got two Isuzus out there. So San Diego is it's popping, man. It's alive. And I did it all last summer. Last summer for me was probably the most social activity I've had in 7 years of living this lifestyle. I was there all summer. I was with other nomads on a daily basis. I really probably only a few days out of the whole time was I truly alone by myself. And sometimes I would have to just leave the group and go into town, and I would just stealth camp, for a day or a couple days just to recharge because it's a lot. It's a lot. And so yeah, it's fun though. It's a good vibe. Question from the chat. Is it in Arizona? It's beautiful. I'm loving it. Um, One thing that's cool is once you get up here into kind of these smaller towns and there's less restriction on this lifestyle. So like you can stealth camp anywhere in the cities. Like I said, I'm only 5 minutes from downtown Sholo. So like when I leave tomorrow, it's a 5 minute drive into town. I got Planet Fitness, any grocery that I want, restaurant. Sholo's a pretty big town. So I really like the Arizona small town living. Now I'm just getting started, right? This is the first stop. So I got a whole summer to go. But so far it's been amazing and I'm really enjoying it. Let's see. Let me hop back in the chat here, see what's going on. Oh yeah, so if you watched last Sunday's video, um, the brakes were smoking, and so I talked to Sir on Dave, who was a mechanic in his previous life and also knows the history of my vehicle. And I don't think it was actually the brakes smoking. I think what happened is I had the mechanic replace my rear passenger side, uh, like, bearing hub assembly and seal last summer in California, and, after he did it, it was leaking a little bit of fluid for a couple weeks, and then the leak totally stopped, and so there was a bunch of, diff fluid, like, caked up on the rear hub and my caliper, and so what Dave said, what he thinks happened is just from the heat of using the brakes downhill, he thinks that assembly got hot and it was just burning off the fluid. And that makes sense because the only smoke I had was coming out of the rear passenger wheel, and that's the wheel that had the buildup of differential fluid on it. And so it wasn't actually the brakes. And I've had no issues with brakes. I've driven um, probably 100 miles since that video, and I haven't had any issues. It stops fine. None of the other wheels have been smoking, so I think that's all it was. I'll obviously monitor the situation, but we're in the all clear from what I can tell. So van's doing good. I came down some pretty rough roads getting here, pretty bumpy roads. Drove some ruts to get here, and it was just a good reminder that the box truck is super capable and a lot of people ask if you need four-wheel drive, and I still stand firm in the belief 90% of the time you don't need four-wheel drive. I think people that aren't familiar driving off-road, they just might be hesitant, but I grew up in the forests of Oregon. I grew up doing wheeling in my Bronco, in my F-150, mudding in the snow, so I just have a lot of experience driving off-road. And so like I really know what this vehicle is capable of, and it does a lot. It does a lot that I ask of it. And I was thinking about this, and I really think the only time you would need four-wheel drive is going to be if you're in, like snow. That's really it. Because if you're in a really muddy situation, these vehicles are so big and heavy. I think you're just going to sink down and get stuck, and the mud is just going to suction you in place. So I don't think four-wheel drive is gonna help you much in the mud, and it's the same with the sand. Um, it might help a little bit. Most part, sand is gonna just swallow you and you're gonna get sucked in. So I think the only time that four-wheel drive would be super beneficial is gonna be if you're in snow, right? A situation where you have legitimate traction loss and you're not in danger of like bogging down, but you just really need extra traction. But beyond that scenario, I don't think you really need it. A lot of people talk about they wanna go off-road, like, on these big trails and stuff, but the reality is, and I was talking to my friend Dan about this, who's does a lot of, like, off-roading, but he wants to get a box truck. The reality is, this is not an overland vehicle. Box trucks are very tall, they're very wide, they're very heavy. This is not a vehicle you buy and then you take it down tight forest roads. You don't rock climb with it. It's just it's not that type of vehicle. So I think, you really need to choose, do you want an overlander or do you want a legit home on wheels? And there's some in between. You can get a smaller, like maybe a narrow 12-foot box or a 10-foot box. You could put four-wheel drive on it and you could do some work. But when you get up into the bigger box trucks, I just don't think it makes sense for that type of application. I think you should be looking at something smaller. That's just my 2 cents on the situation. Um, but I definitely thought about that coming in because I was driving on some sketchy roads and, the box trucks handled fine. Yeah, box trucks basically Class C. Aid Man says, "I just finished my box truck and I'm hitting the road next week. Not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. I'm in Oregon, so I'm off to the forest." Hell yeah, happy to hear it. I started out in Oregon. I love Oregon. What are you gonna do later during the day? I mean, it's 6:30 right now. The day's about over. Question for the van people: what spare tire hanging bag does everyone like for the similar to the Trasharoo? Uh, yeah, Trasharoo is a pretty popular one. I don't know. I would just get that one. I don't think it's that expensive. I'm sure there's some cheaper stuff on Amazon. But, I have a lot of friends that use Trasheroo, they like it. Carl says, "I carried a 100-foot cable and a come along." Yeah, that's an option, right? If you want to, you could winch yourself out. Um, and I think that's something to consider. Like, if you really, don't have four-wheel drive, but you really wanna push the limits of your vehicle, if you get a 100-foot cable and a come along or install a winch, even just a bumper mounted winch, I think you'll be in good shape. And also, I really think a lot of it is just skill. It's knowing how to drive. It's knowing what lines to pick. It's knowing you want to ride up on the edge of a rut. You don't want to go down in it. Um, you don't turn your wheel when you're going through a mud puddle. You drive straight. You power through. You don't stop in soft sand. You don't stop in a mud puddle. So a lot of it is, I think, is skill based. And then beyond that, the rest of it is just, know the limits of your rig, right? But you can do a lot with these vehicles. For my next rig, I'm looking at a 16-foot Isuzu. Um, it'd be cool to have four-wheel drive, but at the end of the day, I don't need it. Also, four-wheel drive, there's a lot of extra components, extra maintenance, and in general, you might have less fuel economy. But again, it's cool to have it. Occasionally, you might need it. But I gotta say, I've been doing this for 7 years. I've gone some crazy places, and I've never got stuck where I needed to be towed out, not once. So I'm pretty confident I won't need four-wheel drive moving forward. But anyway, everybody's different. Give you guys another shot. The sun's going down. I flew the drone last evening. It was beautiful. Got some really cool shots, some cool sunset shots. A little better drone footage than what was in last week's video. Mountain Traveler, good evening. Different subject. What software? What software do you use to edit your videos? So for everybody that wants to know about videos, here's the things. Here's the thing I want to tell you. You don't need that much. There are van life YouTubers. There are currently van life YouTubers with 100,000 plus subscribers that shoot strictly on iPhone. So you don't need a fancy camera. You can get one, but you don't need it. You can use an iPhone or whatever, newest Samsung is available. Camera phones are great. As far as recording or editing software, I use CapCut, which is awesome. You can download it for free. And to get started and doing basic videos, you can use the free version. I pay for their premium version. It's like 20 bucks a month. For me, it's well worth it, but you can start out for free. And so I would recommend for anyone that wants to get into content, any kind of content, start cheap. The biggest mistake that people make, myself included, with any hobby is they get in and they go crazy with the gear and they think having all the best gear is going to make them better. But in almost any skill or hobby, it's not the gear, it's the person using it. That goes for photography, videography, off-roading, snowboarding, fishing. You can take the best fisherman and give him a $20 Walmart pole and take a new fisherman and give him $1,000 in gear, and the pro fisherman with the $20 Walmart pole will outfish him every day. So it's not about the gear. It's about your abilities and your skills. So start with whatever you have. Start with a smartphone, or buy a GoPro, something cheap, and just use free editing software. Use CapCut. Solar camper guy. Who's the solar camper guy? He disappeared from YouTube. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. Use CapCut. Get an external mic. That helps a lot, especially in wind, and it'll give you better quality audio. Hey, F and A in the chat. Good to see you guys. Peace out. Go have a good edit. Happy to see you guys here. Um, that name sounds familiar. Solar Camper Guy. I would look him up if I don't have access because I'm live streaming, but that name sounds familiar. I just don't know who that is. But disappeared from YouTube. Yeah, Outdoor Boys. Outdoor Boys just quit YouTube. I mean, he's so huge and he has so much money. I understand it. Just strictly based off the videos Outdoor Boys already has on YouTube, he's gonna make money for the next several years. Um, so he's pretty set. Solar camper. Oh! I know who Solar Camper Car Guy is. That is. Tell me if I'm right. Solar Camper Car Guy. That is the guy that was a nurse and he was living in a Camaro and then he moved into an SUV, right? And he started traveling. Yes, that's him. Okay, yeah, I know that guy. I watched his videos. So, he has an interesting story. He started out as a nurse. He nursed for a while and then YouTube took off. And then he started doing YouTube videos and travel videos. And if you go and look at his channel, this is what happens in YouTube. Your audience your audience is used to a certain type of video and YouTube is used to you putting out a certain type of video. And that's the video they want you to make every time. And so he was doing stealth camping cooking videos that were very successful, hundreds of thousands and millions of views. And then he got success, made a bunch of money, and he did some like overseas traveling, some European traveling, and he stopped posting and he started posting different content. And as soon as he did that, his views started dropping off. And you could see he came back, he did a few videos, but he wasn't really able to recapture that audience. And so I don't know if he's just taking a break, if he's burnt out, maybe he's going back to nursing. Um, YouTube's a grind. It's a full-time job, especially at his level. So it's possible maybe he got in a relationship, maybe he just wanted to take some time, maybe he's going to go back to nursing. But when it comes down to it, when you get to high level YouTube, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of stress. It can be a lot of stress, and you have to keep putting out the same content. And my channel is no different. I appreciate everybody who's here. I have a loyal fan base of probably about 20,000 people that, come to my live streams, watch pretty much every video. But I had a run back in late winter where I did 1.5 million views. I had like 4 videos that did over 100,000 views, and it was all stealth camping videos, right? But then as soon as I shifted content and I stopped putting out stealth camping videos, I had a huge drop off in my viewership and a huge drop off in the ad revenue. So that's just the nature of the beast. I had to make a deal with myself a while ago that I was just going to create the videos I enjoyed creating, and whatever they do, right? And so if I really wanted to blow up and just make a bunch of money, I would just rinse and repeat stealth camping videos. But, for me, that's not enjoyable. That feels like a job. That feels stressful because now I'm limited to living in the city and having to do cooking videos every time. And I'm not interested in that. And there's no amount of money that's gonna entice me to do something I don't want to do. I've lived that life. I've worked a job. I've had a boss. And in a way, YouTube is that boss, right? It dictates what it wants you to do by rewarding you or punishing you financially. And so that's something you have to ask yourself if you want to be a creator is, how much money do you need? How important is the money and the fame? Um, and that goes for everybody. You can even look at Ryan Twomey's videos. His stealth camping videos hit home runs. And then he did some like Porsche off-grid car camping stuff. He did some Japan stuff, and it dipped down super low. And now he's right back to stealth camping videos. So, I don't think that's sustainable long term because then it's boring and it's just a job. So that's just some advice for you guys. Figure out what you love and do that. And what I tell people all the time is I didn't move into a van to have a job and to be stressed out and to do stuff I don't want to do. And so you got to stay true to yourself. And I would encourage you guys to do the same. Figure out what you want to do, create what you want to create, and do it regardless of what happens. Now, there comes a point where if literally nobody's interested and you're not making any money and you don't enjoy it, then you probably want to look for something else. But if you have at least a sliver of people like everybody here. Now you guys are more than a sliver. I don't want to I don't want to make you feel bad. You guys are a mighty force. And so as long as you have, a sample size of people that enjoy your work and watch what you do and are supportive, and I appreciate all the comments you guys leave on the published videos in the live chat. I know I got a bunch of loyal people that they like to see all this and they like to see how I'm living. And so I'm creating for you guys and I don't really care what YouTube says. And I get people in the comments. I had one lady, I posted some video that was, I don't know, a build video. And she's like, I'm only here for the stealth camping. This is boring. And I'm not making videos for her. So she can move on. She can go watch Ryan Twomey's videos. I'm not interested. It's all about the freedom. For me, it's all about the freedom. And it's about the balance. Captain Caveman says, I have a question about a build I want to do. Shoot, Captain Caveman, what do you got? Talk to me. Talk to me, fine sir, while we sit here on the mountaintop and enjoy this beautiful view. Sun's going down. Military 6x6. Let's go. Yeah, so I saw with a box on it. Yeah, for sure, Captain Caveman. I've seen 6x6s for sale. In fact, if you guys go to Facebook Marketplace right now and you search for box trucks in the California area, like San Diego, Los Angeles, there's a military 6x6 for sale right now. It's about 30 grand and it was actually used in a Hollywood movie. And what's awesome about that rig is they bought it, they rehabbed the whole damn rig so they could use it in their film. And now they don't need it. The film's over, so they're just trying to sell it in order to recoup some cash. And so you can get a really nice dialed in 6x6 low mileage. It's late model. It's like a 2000. It's like a 2012 or something, and it's only 30 grand, so I think it's a good deal. But yeah, in general, I mean, a 6x6, it's cool. It's a beast, but keep in mind, everywhere you go, you're gonna stick out. There's not a lot of stealth factor. Like with a box truck, you can still look commercial. When I talk about stealth, I talk about just people seeing things and then in their mind, they just check off the idea that that fits. That makes sense. That's logical. So a box truck, they see them all the time. It's logical. But a military 6x6 is going to stand out. But if you're okay with that, I think it's a good choice. The one thing to consider is, like someone just mentioned, parts availability. So you have to keep that in mind. Everybody I know that has those type of rigs, like I know a guy that has a Unimog. Everybody I know that has those type of rigs, they end up doing a lot of work themselves. Because keep in mind, when you're out traveling, it's going to be hard to find a mechanic that knows how to work on that vehicle. It's one thing if you live in a fixed location, like say you live in Texas or Georgia, and you know the area and you can find a mechanic that knows how to work on it, and that's your guy. But once you start traveling, you're not gonna have that guy with you. And so, like I said, everyone I know that has those type of rigs, they end up having to work on them themselves. They carry a ton of spare parts, like extra starters, alternators, all kinds of extra stuff because it's hard to get parts and it's hard to find people that work on them. The guy I know that has the Unimog, he's had to do all kinds of crazy repairs, welding, fabrication, to create parts that he couldn't get a hold of. So that's something I would just um, advise on is if you have a 6x6, be prepared that you're going to have to be mechanically inclined and you're going to have to work on it. It's not going to be easy. And that's why I do like the U-Haul rigs, the Econoline rigs. You can get any part you need at Napa or AutoZone. 90% of mechanics know how to work on them. The parts are cheap. The only limitation is you have to find a mechanic that has a bay large enough to accommodate a full-size truck. Um, but other than that, it's easy to get parts and easy to work on. So that's something to think about on the 6x6, but it's a beast. But I would also ask yourself why you want it. I mean, are you going to use it? Are you going to be driving through the tundra? Are you going to be driving through 30 feet of, rough terrain? I mean, I feel like it's kind of overkill. Um, and also speed, you're not going to be able to go 70. You're going to be doing 55. Your tires could be $1,000 a piece. Um, so it's just stuff to consider. And there's no perfect rig. Um, so you're gonna have to just kind of make a list and figure out what's right for you. Everything's gonna have pros and cons. Uh, Dell, the tired gamer, asks about if I've considered switching platforms to something besides YouTube. Um, so yeah, I've thought about it. Here's the issue. When you're a content creator, you have to go to where the people are. Humans, it's very difficult to change human behavior. And I've seen very high level creators, like multiple hundreds of thousands of views, and they've talked about how they'll have like their own website and they'll have offerings on their own website and they cannot get their platform audience, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they can't get their platform audience to click off the platform they're comfortable with and go to the other platform. So the reality is, the first thing is, I'm only going to do one platform. I don't have time or the mental bandwidth to run multiple platforms like, um, Twitch streaming and YouTube and Instagram Live and Patreon, all that kind of stuff.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Check, check, check. Let me know if I'm back. Yup. Okay. Okay. Give me. That was weird. Give me 30 seconds, and I'll fill you guys in. Hold on. Okay, we're back in the box truck. Let me cancel my iPhone. I don't know what happened. I was up on the deck and my iPhone just did. Check, check, check. My iPhone just did a little. Ooh, maybe it's internet. Starlink, maybe. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me now? So I was up on the deck and my iPhone just did a little, like a little glitch. And then um, I was able to see the chat, but I couldn't, and my video was still broadcasting, and up in the corner it said live, and so it still had like the ticker going that I was live. However, I obviously you guys couldn't see it, so I have no idea what happened, but I ran inside and then I just pulled up my laptop, and so here I am. So anyway, we can resume it. I don't know what happened. It was probably me talking about leaving YouTube. They got pissed. Um, but I don't really remember what I was talking about. Remind me where I was at uh, when we cut off because I don't remember. I'm gonna kick my shoes off now that I'm back home. Ouch. Talking about other platforms. Yeah, yeah. So I've talked to a few of my YouTube friends that have Patreons, and they said it's tough. The effort they put into maintaining multiple platforms, financially, it's not really worth it. So that's where I'm at. I'm just sticking with YouTube. But the thing is, I don't want to be in a situation where Google is my only source of income. And so YouTube's owned by Google. And I appreciate YouTube and I appreciate Google. Thank you, Google. But at the same time, I don't want that to be my only income. And so that's why I still do solar work. I don't do as much solar. So, in all honesty, guys, my time is limited. I'm only one man, and I moved into a van to spend more time in nature and to enjoy life. And so I feel bad that I cannot help everybody that wants help with solar. I'm just not um I'm only one guy, So the solar installs I can do are limited, but I do try to help out people when I can. And I think, ultimately the way that I could help more people is by empowering other people to learn how to do solar, right? And either do it themselves or become a, solar installer. Not that I know everything. I don't know everything, but I feel like that, as a teacher, I could help more people than I could as just a standalone one man installer. So, let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in learning to do that. I know it's niche, but if you wanted to do it on your own rig, it could save you some money. Or if you want to install for other people, then it could be it could be a gig for you as a nomad. And I mean, the amount of people that reach out to me that want work done, there's enough work here for probably 6 other nomadic installers. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So yeah, I'm sticking with YouTube. Gonna still do solar installs when I can, and mostly just trying to enjoy life, be in nature, and just kind of do my thing. RVing with Bandit. RVing with Bandit. Thoughts on running a solar cable down the fridge rooftop vent? Yeah, for sure. A lot of people do that. You might have to, pull the fridge out. It just depends on how it's routed. But a lot of people do that. They'll run the cable through the vent. Nothing wrong with that. It's probably easier because otherwise you're going to have to drill through the roof and basically the top of RVs, just like my box truck, they have cabinets all around. So if you don't go through the fridge vent, you have to go through the overhead cabinet and then you have to, run through and then it's just a little more messy. So fridge vent makes sense. Mai says maybe you should do solar install videos on a separate channel. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, right? Is like if I do solar videos on a separate channel, then I have to run 2 YouTube channels. So if I was going to teach solar, I would probably want to do some kind of a course where it would be like learning videos plus live, because I feel like for the most part, to learn stuff, what's most helpful is when you have a direct line to the instructor where you can ask questions. Maybe you guys can practice together on something. But the limitation on YouTube is like you can put out a video, but then it's hard to really follow up with people and answer questions. And, answering questions through chat or through like just the comment section on a video isn't really, it's not really enough. So gaming on PC is awesome. You lost 200 viewers during the cutout. Yeah, I'm not surprised. That's just how it goes. I ain't worried about it. It's 7 o'clock. We've been going live for almost 6:56. We've been going live for almost an hour. Um, so, Batson Alec, how much is the labor charge for a typical install? It's hard. It depends because there is no typical install, right? Everything that people want is different. People want an air conditioner installed, they want a mini split, they want to add panels, they want to add on electrical to an existing system, they want a complete system from scratch, they have a transit or a box truck or a prefabricated RV. So the challenge with this line of work is there is no typical, right? And so I came from residential heating and air conditioning background where 90% of the jobs are very similar. And so it's easy to estimate what a job needs. You use kind of the same parts. There's not a lot of planning and figuring stuff out. But with this, it's everything. Every job is like a custom job. And so that's why it's a little bit challenging. Uh, Renato asks, are you still planning to sell your rig? Yeah, I am. I'm still selling the rig. In fact, what's funny is I had it for sale for so long. And then now that it's funny how things work out, right? Like it seems like a lot of times it seems like the timing is never right with certain things. Or maybe the timing is right, but just the timing you expect isn't right. But now that I've taken the van off the market and I'm traveling, now I've had all these subscribers reach out to me that want to buy this rig. In fact, one lady wanted to buy my rig, and I told her it's not for sale right now, I'm traveling. And she scheduled a one-on-one call with me, which I sell one-on-one calls. They're $50. And, I'll answer whatever questions. It's usually people that have like specific solar questions and need help. All she wanted to do was talk to me about buying the box truck. So she paid me $50 just to talk to me about buying the box truck. And I was like, look, I can't, I'm living in it. I can't sell it. I can't start a new build right now. So there's been quite a few people that have reached out and they want to buy it. So the good news is, as I've explained to you guys in the past, Bats on Electric says, thanks for answering. I do IT work and my day rate is 600. Yeah. So, doing electrical work, you could definitely, like $80 an hour, $600 a day, you could definitely do that as a minimum. But here's the challenge that you run into, that I run into doing solar for vehicle dwellers, is a lot of people that choose this lifestyle, they are on a very fixed income limited budget, right? And so they don't have the money. A lot of people don't have the money for that. And so I have enough work coming in that, I can take the jobs that pay, and that way I don't have to work a lot in relation to how much money I make. But that's one thing to consider, is a lot of people are doing this on a budget, and so they don't want to pay it. But the answer is yes. You could easily make $600 a day or more. I've done that many times, and that's why I have job based. I charge by the job, not by the hour, because I'm charging for. the end result, right? And when people look at it, what they're buying from me is they're not buying an inverter to be installed, right? Because they could install the inverter themselves if they knew how to do it. What they're buying from me is my knowledge of all the parts needed, how to properly install it, and then the finished product of now you have an off-grid electrical system. Now you have free energy for the next 10 years. And so that's what I'm selling is I'm selling free energy for the next 10 years. I'm selling a system, that's going to be reliable and functional for you. And so that's why I charge based on the job because if I was going to tell somebody I'm a solar installer and I charge $80 an hour, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, you're ripping people off. You shouldn't be." I've had people tell me, you should be charging $30 an hour. But when you tell somebody I'm going to design and build you a complete off-grid electrical system and it's going to cost you $2,400, in your mind that makes a lot more sense. It sounds a lot more reasonable than telling somebody I'm going to install your system and I want to charge $80 an hour. So that's how I do pricing. But how to maintain solar panels? What is this, Glenn? What is this? You have a question about how to maintain solar panels? What do you want to know about how to maintain solar panels? Yeah, Eunice made a good point. She says also when you show them what you did, they can know how to fix it in the future and troubleshoot. And that's something. Oh, Flipper's entered the chat. Hello, Flipper. Happy to have you here. Welcome to the live stream. Um, when I do installs for people, I run them through how everything works. And then additionally, I I offer ongoing support. So if I have an install client and they have something going on, like they're welcome to call me and I'll help them troubleshoot. So I'm always here to help out people that I install for. So that's another benefit of, hiring an installer. If you DIY something and it messes up, who are you going to call? And it's very hard when you've DIY'd a system, it's hard to find people to work on it that are going to understand what you did and then be able to fix or troubleshoot what you've done. So that's another benefit. RVing with Bandit says mobile RV techs are 150 an hour in San Diego. Most charge 100 to show up and 250 for the first hour. Yeah, so that's the other thing too is, when we're talking about that, right? Like a mobile RV tech or even like a residential electrician or plumber, everybody's $100 plus an hour. So as a solar installer, especially a mobile installer, you're selling a convenience. You're coming to them and you're doing the job at their property. They don't have to drive it, drop it off, worry about it being in someone's shop. So you can charge 100, 150 an hour, but you just have to find people that can afford it. And you're going to have to tell a lot of people no because there are a lot of people on super low income and they just can't afford it. So that's just part of the business. What was I saying? Oh yeah, yeah. So about selling my van and doing a new build out. The good news is, as I had predicted, finances are looking really good. So I'll be able to buy my new vehicle for cash as soon as the weather cools down in Yuma. That's where I'm doing the build out. I'm waiting to do the build. I'm going to do it at my dad's house in Yuma. I don't have to drive around. I have the space to set up all kinds of projects and tools, and I can just park it for 6 months and just build. So I'm waiting to do the new build until I can get to Yuma till the temperatures drop. So realistically, I'll probably look at getting a new rig um, late October or early November, and at a um, I'll be at a place where I can just buy the rig I want, regardless of whether or not I've sold this rig. So let's see. So that's the plan. And then again, I'll list this vehicle for sale. And I have a lot of people already interested. I'm gonna drop the price. I listed it for sale originally because for a higher price because I needed, I needed 40 grand out of the sale of this rig, 40 to 50 grand to buy the rig I thought I wanted and all the materials. But now that's changed. I have more of my own money and I don't need a rig that's quite as expensive. So I'm going to lower the price of this just to move it out, clear it out, so it'll be cheaper. Look at this view, guys. Look at this. This is literally at my desk. This is the view that I work at. I wake up in the morning, I have my morning coffee, I edit my videos, I check emails, all with this view. How gorgeous is that? It's breathtaking. I'm in Sholo, Arizona. Someone says, "Do you take cash only?" No, no, no. I take credit cards. I have a legitimate business. I have an LLC. I have a credit card processor and I use QuickBooks. So, I mean, I'm all legit. I'm paying taxes. I can take credit cards. A lot of people pay with credit. And that also will allow you to do higher paying jobs. If you're doing a four or $5,000 install, you're gonna have a harder time finding people that have $4,000 or $5,000 cash. But a lot of people have $4,000 or $5,000 on credit. So um, definitely, I would recommend taking credit cards. Chicken the Sticks says, "Just found your channel. I love your videos." Thank you so much, Chicken the Sticks. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here on the live stream. Oh, CJ Snow says most people only have that as a screensaver. I agree with you. I love that that's my actual view. And window, right? Like that almost looks like a monitor with a screensaver, but it's not. It's real life. I'm out here doing it. And that's the reason I'm living this lifestyle. 8 Me says, "Isn't that close to the Greer fire?" Yeah, I am. I'm about an hour away from the fire. I haven't seen any smoke, but the last I saw, they have it like 40% contained. And so, I think it'll be fine. I'll definitely have to um, be cautious as I continue into the mountains and just be mindful of the fire. But, you know, the nice thing about having a home on wheels is that I can just move. So if I'm in the fire zone, I'll just leave. It's not a big deal. So yeah, it's a pretty nice setup. Eunice Duncan says, do most have their own equipment purchased in advance for you to install? So it's 50-50. Some people that reach out to me, um, and they have their own equipment, and um, other people have no idea what they need. And so my favorite situation is when people don't know what they need, because then I can design the proper system. Because here's what happens most of the time when people have their own equipment is they just buy stuff. They see something on a Facebook page, something somebody else has, and then they just buy stuff. And then by the time they come to me, a lot of times it's not even the right equipment, or it is not compatible, or it's not what they need. So the best situation is when I can build a system for them from scratch. But if they have their own equipment, I'll install it for them. But sometimes I have to give them disclaimers like, "Hey, this is, it's not quite right. It might not do what you want, but this is what you have. I'll install it for you." So sometimes that's just the case. Like I had one job I did in Yuma. I did that cargo trailer solar install, and this guy, wanted to have this off-grid cargo trailer and run a mini split. but he only bought 700 watts of solar panels. And then he called me to do the install. And I was like, look, dude, I can build this system for you and install it, but you kind of limited yourself by only having 700 watts of panels. So, I installed it for him and I just told him, you're not going to really be able to be 100% off grid with 700 watts of solar, but, you're just going to have to live within what you've selected for yourself. And what's funny is he thought he was getting a deal by buying a bunch of cheap solar panels and saving a few $100. But in reality, if he would have talked to me first, that few $100 that he thought he saved, he could have actually had a completely robust off-grid system. So sometimes, um, sometimes people limit themselves by purchasing equipment before they know what they need. Oh, it's looking beautiful out there. I love it. Loving the nature. Someone asked what an LLC is. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. It is a business entity. And so it's the easiest way to start a business that says, that allows you to start a business bank account and, have a credit card processor, have business insurance, and just be legitimate. So, um, it's good if you're going to start a business to do an LLC. It also limits your liability. So if someone was going to sue my company, they could only sue my company for my company assets. So I keep this van as a personal vehicle in my personal name so that if someone, was going to sue me, they couldn't take my vehicle, right? But if I did work as Nomad Brad and got sued, then somebody could, in theory, they could take everything I have. They could take all my money. They could take my home on wheels. They could take everything. So limited liability, it limits the liability to the assets of that business. So it's smart to have an LLC. Oh man. So John O'Neill says, what is the Blue Eddy 300? Does that replace batteries? I know nothing about solar. So I put out a video last Wednesday about the Blue Eddy. It's a power station. Um, it's a power station that you would use to run your entire vehicle, or you could use it as backup power for your house. So it's not really portable. It's super heavy. It weighs almost 100 pounds. But a Blue Eddy would be good for somebody that wants to have a lot of power. But at the same time, they don't have the knowledge or skills to DIY an electrical system. And also, they're on a budget and they don't want to hire somebody like me to install a system from scratch. So if you want to have a lot of power on the road, you want to run a mini split, you want to run, over 1,000 watts of solar, but you want it easy and affordable, then um, the Blue Eddy would be a good choice. It's not for everybody. I'll still do a custom system on my next rig, but I think it's a good choice for some people. And it's pretty affordable. They finally released the price on it. It's only $1,100. So it has, what does it have? It has like, is it 3,000 watt hours of battery? But if you did the math, basically the battery and the inverter that's included in it is basically, if you were to buy those units standalone, like if you were just going to buy cheap Chinese like Li time lithium batteries and a cheap like Renogy power inverter and charge controller, it would be the same cost or maybe even more expensive than just buying the Blue Eddy Apex 300. So it is a low price point and it's expandable. You can add on battery packs. And then again, the benefit is you just plug stuff into it. So you plug solar panels into it, you plug in your electronics. You don't have, there's no wiring to do. So it's very simple. Yo, yo, yo! We got Paul Barger in the live stream. Happy to see you, Paul. I'm up in the mountains of northern Arizona. I'm currently in Show Low, doing a small loop through the mountains of northern Arizona. I'll be heading west um, through St. John's, maybe through your neck of the woods in a month or two. Happy to see you here, man. Welcome. We're just talking about electrical and solar and box trucks. Let's see what's going on. If you guys want to see a crazy solar install, go to Paul Barger's channel and his bus. He has a full size schoolie. I think it's full, maybe not. Maybe it's like a 30 foot. Anyway, he has a big schoolie and he has. I'm pretty sure he has like over 3,000 watts of solar on it. He has a mini split, maybe two. I almost feel like I saw him mount two condensers on it. I'm not sure. Anyway, Paul's got a pretty killer electrical system on his bus. If you guys want to see something that'll blow your mind. Jonathan Rome says, "What's the max solar input for the Blue Eddy?" I want to say it's 2,400 watts. There's two solar input uh, ports, and I think they're 1,200 watts apiece. So you could do up to 2,400 watts on the Blue Eddy. The other option is it's technical, but you can technically set up your own separate battery bank to feed the Blue Eddy, and then you could put a charge controller to that battery bank. So there's a way around it that you could buy the Blue Eddy, and then you could build your own custom battery system, and you wouldn't have to buy the Blue Eddy battery packs. So there's you got some wiggle room in there. There's some options. Paul Barger says, "Welcome to stop by if you like." Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll reach out when I'm cruising over that area. He says his bus is a beast. It's 28 foot. Okay, it's a 28 foot, so it's actually not a full size bus. It's a little more compact, which is nice. 3,200 watts of solar and two mini splits. It's a monster. Yeah, he did a good job on it. I'm happy to see it. And, Paul's doing good too, where he has his Nomad vehicle and he's got a home base and he's surrounded by other like minded people, off grid people, nomads. And so Paul's got a pretty nice setup. I would love to stop by and say hi and just see what he's up to and check out the situation. Paul says, "Congrats on your channel blowing up. You're doing great." Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, up to 80,000 subscribers. I'm super grateful that 80,000 people have clicked the like button. Paul says, "Message me at Bread Trucker." Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. Carl says, "I've heard that charging to 80% makes for longer battery life. Is that true?" Yeah, it depends which battery technology you have. I've heard that it depends, and I don't know exactly which battery type it is, but there's a certain lithium where you don't want to go below 10% or over 80% for the best longevity. But um, my thought process is that I'm just going to build a badass system and just run it. And I'm not going to worry about it, right? And the difference you get in lifespan, it's minimal, right? It's like if you supercharge your battery and deplete it, you might only get 5,000 cycles. But if you baby it and you go between 10% and 80%, you might get 7,000 cycles. But at the end of the day, does it really matter? I mean, it's still going to be so many years down the road. The odds are you're going to be on to a different vehicle, a different set of batteries. It really doesn't matter. So I would say don't worry about it. Just build a system and go live your life. I don't worry about it. Simple Box has a question. He says, "If I wanted to put my battery bank on the other side of the truck to the inverter charger, could that cause any issues?" So Paul says, "I knew you back when you were just a little guy." Um, yeah, so Simple Box, the situation is The only issue is the further away your batteries are from your inverter charger, you're just going to have voltage drop. So you'll lose efficiency over distance. And I know you have a 24-volt electrical system. So in general, you're going to be better off than if you had a 12-volt system. Um, but then again, if you're talking about just the other side, it might only be, 8 foot of difference. So I would say, do whatever is best for you. But one thing to consider is that you're going to have to do the math and you might need to step up the gauge of your battery cable. So you just got to use um, a voltage chart, a wire size chart, and just figure out um, the distance between the batteries to the inverter charger, how many amps that's going to be. So like, for example, your inverter might have a 150 amp fuse. So figure out 150 amps over 8 feet. What size wire gauge do I need? I don't know what you have or what you need, but just make sure it's all good. But as long as you take into account battery gauge, wire gauge, it's not a problem. Paul Barger says Will Prowse says don't worry about it. I agree. And I think I think I watched Will Prowse's video and I think he said the same thing that I just said. Don't worry about it. Just live your life. And at the end of the day, if it's 10% less lifespan on the battery bank, who cares? Don't overcomplicate it. And when we're talking about vehicles, the odds are you're not going to be living in the same vehicle in, 10 years from now. Let me look back at the chat. Simple Box came through with the super chat. Thank you, Simple Box. I appreciate you. Seb Gary says, "What do you think about the EcoFlow power kits?" I think he's talking about EcoFlow. Um, EcoFlow has this system where they have like this hybrid where it's like a DIY, but they give you a bunch of wiring and power boxes. I think that's what he's talking about. I've looked into it. It's really expensive. I don't think it makes sense like value wise. I feel like they're charging too much for it. I think for very niche situations, I think um, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to sell them to like people that are doing sprinter conversions that have a lot of money and they just want a quick all-in-one solution. But I don't know about that, man. I would not do the Blue Eddy or the EcoFlow thing. I would either do like a Blue Eddy home kit or Anchor, one of those brands, the Jackery home kit, if you're going to try to do something that's hands off, or I would do a custom system. But the EcoFlow thing is kind of a weird, like in between zone, and I don't think it really makes sense for most people. Simple Box says it's mainly the drop. I want to double my battery capacity, but I'll need to move the batteries. Yeah, yeah. So the only consideration is voltage drop. So move the battery bank, keep all the batteries together. What you don't want to do is separate your battery bank because then the batteries that are closest to your inverter, they're going to get like used up, depleted first. And then the further away ones, they're going to get not depleted as much and your batteries won't really charge the same. Um, so yeah, I would say put all your batteries together if you have to move them, and then just install the appropriate size wiring for that. Spiral Sloth says I suggest charging to 90%. Paul says I charge mine to 100% and they will still last for 15 years. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I charge mine to 100%. The challenge is as a vehicle dweller is you have to size your system so that you have enough power to make it through, low sun days in the winter. and very hot days in the summer where you have to run the air conditioner. So you need to have like a huge battery bank for summer air conditioning and for winter low sun days. But in the middle of the year when the weather is moderate and you're not using AC and you have a lot of sun, your battery bank is going to be like fully charged all the time. Like for me right now, being up here, my battery bank is at a, by the time I go to bed, I'm sitting at 80%, or by the time I wake up, I'm sitting at 80% capacity and I'm fully charged by 10, 11 a.m. So I'm sitting at 100% all day. So my battery bank only dips down to 80%, and it's going to be like that basically all summer because I'm not going to be in super hot temperatures. And so I'm definitely not living a lifestyle where I'm like in the best situation for um, my batteries to have the most longevity. But at the end of the day, my battery bank's going to last 10 years. I'm going to have a different vehicle. It just doesn't matter. So just go live your life, enjoy it. Make sure you have enough battery. That's more important. Gaming on PC says, I need a haircut. I agree. It's been a long time. I do need a haircut. I'll have to get one here, um, here in town. CJ Snow says, what about security when you're away from the rig? I mean, I just lock it up. I installed the kill switch, so someone can break into my vehicle, but they won't be able to steal it. And that's the main thing is I know some people that had their rigs stolen, and what happens is people steal your rig and then they drive it somewhere else and then they strip it down. But with my rig, they can break into it, but they can't steal it. And so most people aren't going to break into a rig and then spend time at the scene of the crime rifling through your stuff because they're nervous that someone's going to figure out you're going to come back, the cops are going to come. So the worst case scenario is someone's going to break into my rig, it's going to suck, and then I'll have to fix it. But it's really not stealable, and so I don't worry about it. And then at the end of the day, if it does get stolen, I mean, I'm just going to build a new one. So you can't, you can't live your life in fear. I heard an interesting quote the other day. Someone was talking about fear, and they said, fear is it's all mental, and it's all in the mind. Fear is all in the mind, and it's your brain sensing an outcome that it's your brain sensing an outcome that you are resistant to, right? So you're not fearful about going to get ice cream. You're not fearful about winning the lottery. You're fearful about what if my van gets broken into and stolen, right? So fear is always in the future. It's being afraid of something that might happen in the future, but it's never in the present. And so I've lived 7 years, knock on wood, knock on my cutting board. No one's broken into my rig, nobody's stole it. And so I'm really just not worried about it. Something else I would say to consider too is that there's only two types of people that break into vehicles. There's professional vehicle thieves, and then there's tweakers. And so professional vehicle thieves, they only steal vehicles that have a high resale value. Like, they'll steal high-end sprinters and high-end transits that have a lot of bolt-on goodies that they can quickly resell. I've seen that happen. Um, they won't, no car thief is going to steal this box truck because this box truck is not worth anything for parts. So the only person that would break into this would be a tweaker. And even then, I feel like as long as you're not camped out in a place that's like where the tweakers are at, they're not really going to mess with you. For the most part, tweakers stick to their tweaker areas. So don't park in a seedy part of town, park under a street lamp and don't have valuables exposed, and you're going to be fine. Pete says, what do you do in the cab to hold your camera steady? I have a suction cup mount that suctions to my um, windshield. So that's what I use. I just suction it to the windshield, and then I clip on um, my DJI. Tiger Paw is asking about solar panels. I always recommend avoiding flexible panels. So here's the issue. Um, Solar panels, the enemy of solar is heat. Heat will make your solar panels less efficient. Even on rigid panels, rigid residential aluminum panels, the hotter they get, the less efficient they become. But the problem with flexible panels is they're super thin and they mount directly to the roof. So they have a very difficult time dissipating heat. And so what happens is those flexible panels get hot, they become less efficient, and over time they just burn out. And so I don't care what technology it is, I don't care if it's CIGS or CGIS, whatever it's called. The enemy of solar is heat, and flexible panels will always retain more heat than a fixed rigid panel. And the reason why is that the rigid panels, they're mounted off the roof, there's airflow underneath them, and the aluminum frame that the panel is built into acts as a heat sink. So the heat from the solar panels, it disperses out into the aluminum frame, and then the airflow comes and it pulls that heat away. So rigid panels will always be more efficient and last longer than flexible panels, just due to thermodynamics. There's no way around it. So I always recommend rigid panels. I never recommend flexible unless it's your only option. If you're mounting to like a rooftop tent or on some thing and it's your only option, then do flexible, but it's not the best choice. Dino's taking off. Good night, Dino. Happy to have you here. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you on the next one. As far as bifacial panels go, Flipper's asking about bifacial. So the way bifacial goes is it collects sun from the front and the back of the panel. It's basically two solar panels back to back. So it can collect sun from both sides. But here's the situation. Bifacial was designed for applications in like in marine where you can mount the panels at an angle and sunlight will reflect off the water and hit the panel, or in a physical permanent structure where you have like space under the panel. So like if it's on the roof of a building and sun will hit the white roof of the building and then reflect back up to the panel, that's what bifacial is designed for. When you mount solar panels on the roof of a vehicle, there's a very small amount of light that's going to be able to bounce and actually get underneath the panel and do you any justice. So I don't have math on it, but I will tell you that in general, based on the physics, I do not believe bifacial is going to be a huge improvement. However, there's nothing wrong with bifacial. So sometimes I'll see bifacial for cheap on Marketplace, and so there's nothing wrong with using it. It still dissipates heat. You still get the full rated wattage from the face of the panel, but I don't think you're really going to see enough extra solar to make it a benefit. I'm going to go bring in my ladder. It's getting dark, and I want to bring it in before it gets dark. I don't want to bear climbing up the ladder and partying on the roof tonight. I'll let you guys watch the sunset while I do that. Oh, all right, we're back. Hope you enjoyed that sunset view. The ladder is safely inside. No bear's gonna climb on the roof tonight. Wouldn't that be wild? Let me hop back on the chat. Laren Brook says, Brad, is it illegal to do the stealth camping in the city? Some cities will have no. What is that? What is on my mustache? I don't know. Little forest fuzzy. Some cities will have a city ordinance that says no vehicle habitation, so it's technically illegal. But I always ask, I don't check, I don't really care. I always ask for forgiveness, not permission. That's how I live my life. And so, um, you know, for the most part, if you're stealth camping, if you're in an area where it's not allowed, you'll probably get a warning. I, you know, I think the only way someone's really gonna like you're gonna get like a ticket or something is if they know you're camping and they ask you to leave and you don't. But you're not gonna get arrested. You know what I mean? It's not. It's just one of those things. They don't want to allow it. They don't want to encourage it. The system wants people plugged in. It wants people paying rent. All this no van life stuff, no car camping. They realize what's happening. The economy is in shambles. Cost of living is going through the roof, and more people are not able to afford traditional housing. And so they see what's coming and they realize people are looking for solutions and looking to get out. And what they don't want is a mass exodus, and they don't want thousands of citizens living in their vehicles. It's going to tank all the rental prices, the property values. People won't be renting homes. I mean, it could have a cascading side effect. And so they don't want that. They want you renting, paying your bills, and so they don't want it. But in general, I just ask for forgiveness, not permission, and it's never been an issue. CJ Snow is out. Thank you, CJ. Happy to have you here tonight. Kraken says you could do bifacial, but you'd need to tilt the panels. I agree. Yeah. Some people have really crazy tilting systems, like they'll have electric tilt that comes up, and so they can get benefit from bifacial. But the thing is, on a vehicle, you have to look at your energy consumption. And in general, it's pretty easy as long as you fill the roof with solar, whether you're in a cargo van or a box truck, you're going to be able to get enough solar just from regular panels without tilting them based on the needs of your vehicle, right? Like if you have a smaller vehicle with a smaller roof and less solar, you're going to need a smaller air conditioner, right? If you have a bigger box truck with more living space, you're going to need a bigger air conditioner, and then you're going to have more devices. Like I have a big flat screen TV. So the vehicle you have, the space that's available is going to kind of dictate how much energy you need. So it's very rare that you're going to need more solar than what you can fit on the roof, you know, as long as you just maximize your space. Spiritual Sloth. We got an installer in the chat. He says 90% of the installs I do are ground mounts where a bifacial is king, but they're a waste on any rooftop system. They're more expensive and heavier, def not worth it. There you go. I didn't think about the weight. I didn't think about them being heavier. So that's a good factor to keep in mind. Yeah, they really, I mean, you really do need a large amount of space underneath to take advantage of that bifacial. Steve said, are there certain cities that are more hostile to stealth camping? Yeah, for sure. California is one of the worst spots for stealth camping, in my opinion. I heard Florida, which is interesting because Florida is like the big freedom state, but I heard they just put in a bunch of laws to prevent people from living in vehicles. So there's definitely certain places where it's more friendly than others. And that's why I tell people I love Arizona. And the reason why stealth camping is easy in Arizona, and the reason why I love being here, is because everything is about money when it comes to the government. It's all about money. And a huge portion of Arizona's income is tourist based, travel based, and it's specifically from people coming into Arizona during the winter because Arizona is warm. It's a huge travel destination. Internationally, a lot of people come from Canada where it's snowy and cold in the winter down to Arizona for the winter to have good weather. So if Arizona made it difficult to live in your vehicle, they would lose a ton of revenue. And something else that's interesting is a lot of people don't just live here in vehicles, they have second homes here. So they'll come down with RVs, but then they have like houses. There's a lot of Canadians that have second homes here in Arizona. Yeah, they're called snowbirds. So if Arizona outlawed vehicle dwelling, their economy would take a big hit. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very unlikely um, that they would do it. And I think, if we got to the point where America really outlawed vehicle dwelling to the point that you couldn't do it, like it was just purely illegal, um, at that point, I would say America has fallen. I mean, we would be in such bad shambles that, I mean, it wouldn't even matter. At that point, it's like, you gotta either leave the country or hunker down and fight it out because we're gonna be in a pretty bad place. We got the chef in the chat. What's going on, chef? Chef says, "Hi, Brad. Was it hard to get insurance for the box truck?" Yeah. So here's the thing. When you buy a box truck, on the VIN, it's gonna be flagged as a commercial vehicle. So you're going to have to get commercial insurance. Now, once you convert it to a motorhome, once you put a shower and a kitchen in, you can have it re-registered as an RV. That's what I did. And so now it's an RV. Insurance is super cheap. I have motorhome RV through Progressive. It's only $50 a month. But um, when you start out, you have to get commercial insurance. Now, here's what I did. When I started out, um, I didn't have a business at the time. So I just went to this website called Next Insurance, nextinsurance.com, and it's a commercial car insurance company. And I just started filling out the insurance for a commercial vehicle. And they asked me, uh, what's the name of your business? And I just made up a business name and typed it in. And they didn't ask for any official documentation. They didn't ask for any official business registration. And they granted me a commercial insurance policy. And this was in Texas 2 years ago. It was about, I want to say it was like $86 a month just for pure liability on a commercial policy. So it wasn't expensive, but I just made up a company and it worked fine. So that's something that you could do. And then again, once you switch it over to a motorhome, you can have it retitled. But to my understanding, I don't really know that that's illegal. I mean, you're not fudging any government documents. You're only fudging an online car insurance application. So that's all I can say about that. Flipper says, I've been there when I was a kid. Eureka still could be. Portland, Oregon is just like it. I don't want to live amongst the people that I would see there. Yeah, I grew up in Oregon. Yeah, Diana already bought her panels, but um, the thing is, um, like when I buy solar panels, I buy them cheap on Facebook Marketplace. Like I don't, I bought these 320-watt panels for $80 a piece. And Diana did something similar. She bought hers off Facebook Marketplace for super cheap. So, you're not paying extra for bifacial. So the only thing that you have to deal with is extra weight. But I think Diana only has 3 panels and she's on a school bus, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, in general, you don't want to pay extra for bifacial, but if you get them cheap, it doesn't matter. Chef says because I travel all over and I'm never really home is why I want to build a tiny home. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, people are saying the insurance company could deny a fake claim. Yeah, that could happen. But keep in mind too, this is like a temporary thing to get around, to make sure you have insurance while you're like doing a build out, right? Like there's going to be a time period between when you purchase the vehicle to when it qualifies as a motorhome. And depending on what state you want to register it in, the state will have a list of what requirements there are. But typically, it's like you have to have a water tank, you have to have um, running water, you have to have a cooking appliance, you have to have a toilet. But once you meet those criteria, you can go to the DMV and have it reclassified as a motorhome, and then you can get regular motorhome insurance. So I'm not saying you want to do that long term, but it's a solution short term for people. And of course, proceed with caution. I'm not recommending, I'm not saying anyone should do it. I'm just saying that's what I did. Jason Redpill says any recommended specs when looking for a solar panel. So the one thing I will recommend for a box truck, the one thing I'd recommend is get the biggest panel. So I'd recommend you can get the most solar if you put your panels perpendicular on the roof. So if your box truck is running front to back, you want to put the panels sideways and then get the biggest panels you can that'll fit edge to edge. So like on a regular box truck that's like 7.5 feet, you can fit a 650-watt solar panel on the roof. So that's what I would do. I would maximize it, and I would maximize it because if you get like say a 550-watt panel, you're going to be giving up like a foot of roof space. So you're kind of losing out over the length of the truck. So I would just get the biggest one that would fit. The first thing you want to do is just measure your roof, see what the maximum dimensions are, and then I would shop around and look for a solar panel solar that will fit within those max dimensions. Senval says, wouldn't the weight of a 650-watt panel be a risk over bumps? No, no. I've installed a lot of 550 and 650-watt panels. So, I mean, the thing is, what's the weight difference of a solar panel that's 200 watts versus 600 watts, right? And then you have to keep in mind the bigger the panel, it might weigh more, but it also has a larger surface area. So you're spreading that weight over a larger distance. So you're not putting twice the weight over the same footprint. So I don't think it really makes a difference. You just want to make sure that it's installed secured down properly. But keep in mind too, right? When we're talking about on the roof of the box truck, the roof of your box truck, it's not really jamming on the bumps like the cab of your box truck is. By the time you're all the way up there, it's going to be a little more of a fluid up and down. It's not going to be quite as crazy as when you're sitting right above the shocks. So just in general, I don't think the bumps are quite as bad up top. Carl says, "What are your thoughts on the new cells?" I don't know. I'm not in on the newest solar panel tech, so I can't tell you. I don't know. I would just research it. Chef says, "I want a 16-foot with a gas engine. I have a build plan, full electric kitchen." Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on a 16-foot box, I was doing the math. You can fit damn near 3,000 watts on the roof. You can fit 2,800 watts pretty easily if you use that method. If you get big panels like 650 to 700 watts and you stack them edge to edge, you can get 2,800 watts on the roof. So that, yeah, that's what I would do. Full electric, no problem. Renato says, "I'm planning to get a rig. Any advice?" I mean, that's a pretty generic question. I don't know what to tell you. Get the rig that's right for you, man. Have it inspected before you buy it. Take it to a mechanic. Make sure there's nothing funky wrong with it. And then have a little emergency repair savings. Have a few grand in the bank for unexpected breakdowns. Yeah, so Senval says a 650-watt panel is 78 pounds, and a 250-watt panel is 27 pounds. So that's basically a 250-watt panel. A 650 is almost 3 times as heavy as a 250, but a 650 is also almost 3 times the size of a 250. So it all evens out. Bigger surface area, you're spreading out that weight. No, you're not going to crack them. Let me tell you what, these solar panels are super strong. I have gently crawled across my solar panels with all my body weight, and I've not cracked them or broke them. And of all the friends and nomads I've visited in 7 years, I have never once heard about a solar panel cracking without external force, without a hailstorm, without a tree branch, just from driving. Keep in mind too, the solar panel, it has the aluminum frame. That's adding to the rigidity. So that aluminum frame is giving you stiffness. Haas is here from Heber, Arizona. Happy to have you here, Haas. Laren Brook has another question. Don't want to take. What's your opinion on ambulance build outs? I covered this in last week's live stream. Ambulance have a short roof. Most of them are less than 6 feet. Ambulances are extra heavy. The reinforcement on the box is extreme. They're heavier. You're going to get worse fuel economy. Also, ambulances can have a lot of wiring issues because they have so many additional electronics that are installed after the factory. You can have parasitic battery drain issues. Keep in mind too, ambulances, um, even though the mileage might be low, the ambulance companies idle the shit out of those things. So you might find an ambulance with over only 30,000 miles, but best believe that thing has been idling a lot. If you ever notice any type of like government vehicle, whether it's a cop or a fire truck or like a public works vehicle, they don't pay for their own gas. They don't care how much fuel they use. They idle their vehicles nonstop. So the engine is going to have a lot of wear that's not visible based on the odometer. So that's what I would say on an ambulance. Um, I would buy a box truck over an ambulance every time. The benefit to the ambulance is you might find one cheaper, and some of them are four-wheel drive, and they have a bunch of build out, like you can leave the furniture and stuff inside, which is cool if you don't want to do a lot of DIY building. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend an ambulance. Senval says, thanks for the answers. Stoked to research new panels. Happy to hear it, man. Yeah. Yeah, I would get the biggest panels you can fit on the width of the roof. Go from there. Jonathan Romes says, you have me debating the Blue Eddy for Victron in my build. I upgraded to Victron in my motor bus and love it versus Magnum. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you already have Victron, I would never recommend swapping it out for Blue Eddy. I'm just saying for people that are starting from scratch, especially Victron, like Blue Eddy against a DIY system like what I have with cheap batteries and cheap inverter, all-in-one inverter charger, that's like you got to really think. But if you're talking about Blue Eddy versus Victron, you're looking at a 2-3x price difference. So the Blue Eddy becomes much more attractive. Um, so yeah, that's, you're gonna have to figure that out for yourself. Um, the Victron can still do more stuff with monitoring, but I don't know, man. The price on the Blue Eddy is stinking attractive. So I would almost lean towards the Blue Eddy. Chef is in the chat. He says I'll be sending you a consultation request, and I want you to do the solar. Yeah, at any point, if you guys want like one-on-one time, and you want me to help you, like just figure out what's the right path, what's the right rig, what components do I need, consult me before you just go buy stuff. Um, there's a link in my YouTube channel, on my Instagram. I have consultations. They're only $50, but it's definitely worth it. And I'll line you out and make sure that you're headed in the right direction. So feel free to book one of those anytime, and I'll help you figure out exactly what you need. Happy to help. Dustin says some have hour meters. Yeah, absolutely. Some have hour meters, but does the buyer know how to read an hour meter? So that's something else to keep in mind, right? Like when we're talking about buying ambulances, do you know what an hour meter is? Do you know what a lot of hours is? If you're just a regular, like me, I don't know how many hours is a lot of hours. So if you're just a regular civilian trying to buy a rig, you're not going to know even what the hour meter is. So that's something to keep in mind. Try to figure out how much the vehicle's been run. Jim says, did you build your interior cabinets? Yeah, I built them. I built them all. I'll build them also very similar in the next build out. Someone says, how would you ensure the box truck is from a southern state? All you have to do on your box truck is just crawl underneath it and look at it. An East Coast box truck is disgusting. What's interesting is I was looking at Scott's box truck. I did his solar install for him, and I was looking at the underside of his box truck, and he had holes in his floorboard. He bought his box truck from Tennessee. He didn't get it inspected. He didn't even look at it. He just bought it and had it shipped to his house in Michigan, and is in terrible condition. So all you have to do is crawl underneath and look at the frame. They can't hide the rust. I mean, they can try to like paint it or coat over it, but just do some like Google pictures of what a West Coast vehicle undercarriage looks like versus what is a East Coast vehicle undercarriage looks like, and it's easy to spot. Or you can ask somebody that knows about vehicles. Anybody that knows about vehicles, it's easy to spot. So you don't have to like insure anything. You just look at it and you're going to know. But I guess the way you would insure it is by physically looking at it. Or if you're not physically in proximity of the vehicle, have it inspected by a mechanic that's near the vehicle and ask them, how's the undercarriage? Is it rusted? Is this an East Coast vehicle? Any mechanic's going to know right away and they'll be able to tell you. Pitter Patter's here. Signed up for Silver Nomad. I appreciate you, Pitter Patter. Says, would you travel out of the country on wheels? I've thought about it. I don't think I would. I don't think I would. I'm not interested in visiting Canada. Sorry, Canadians. I'm just not interested. I feel like America's beautiful, and I'm sure Canada's beautiful, but I don't feel like there's anything in Canada that I can't get in America. So the only other option would be like shipping it overseas. I have zero interest in shipping my box truck. So then the only other option would be driving it south across the border. And I don't really think I want to do that. I feel like I would it's good, if you have a breakdown, you need repairs, you need parts, it's going to be way more difficult to do that in a foreign country with a foreign language barrier. Um, there's issue. I don't want to be a fear monger, but there are issues with potentially getting extorted. I've seen a few YouTubers that have fancy vehicles. If you're in a fancy vehicle, you're more of a target. Like if you're in a fancy Sprinter or an overlanding vehicle. I watched one video a few months ago about a guy in a really fancy overlander, and he got pulled over by local police 3 times in 2 weeks. And each time he had to pay like $100 to a couple $100. And I don't know, man. It's just not for me. I think I would fly to South America or Mexico, no sweat, and have a great time and not be fearful of anything. But I think it would be a lot of stress to drive south, and so I wouldn't personally probably do that. Jerry Talley in the chat says, Brad, I can verify the ambulance idling. I saw two ladies sitting by the ER a while back. They said they leave it running a lot. Also, think about how much wear on them when they smash on the gas. Yeah, that's another thing too, right? Is not only do ambulances have high idle hours, but those guys are driving it like they stole it. It's not their vehicle. They don't maintain it. They don't pay for maintenance. They don't give a crap. They're they're hitting the gas, hitting the brakes. They're rolling corners. So just everything is going to have a lot. It's going to have a lot rougher life overall. So just something to consider. I'm just trying to state the facts. Do with that what you will. Buy an ambulance if it makes you happy. Don't let me talk you out of it, but be realistic about the situation and consider the possibilities. Patty S. Yeah, SoCal. Any West Coast vehicle is going to have better cars. Oregon doesn't salt their roads. Washington doesn't salt. It's the road salt that messes up the vehicles. Oregon, Washington, and California do not salt their roads. Same with Arizona, maybe Nevada. So you want to kind of be in that area. Diana Sailor's out. Good night, Diana. Happy to have you here. Chef says, watching your build videos is why I decided to get a box truck. I'm pretty sure I can build it myself. The electrical scares me. Happy to help you out, brother. Canada's beautiful. I believe it. Senval says, I did some recalculation. I found I can fit four 590-watt panels. That's 2,300 watts of output. 2,300 watts times 5 hours of sun per day is 11.8 thousand watt hours a day. That's awesome, man. That's a huge, huge amount of solar. You can do a lot with 8,000 watt hours a day. So yeah, I like it. I would definitely, I would go with that. Foresty Forrest got kidnapped in Mexico? No, he didn't. Get out of here. Did he really? He was on a bike tour? When was it? Revo? When did Foresty Forrest get kidnapped? How long ago? No way. No way, dude. What? How long ago? Oh, years ago. Okay, dang, that's sketchy. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely watched Foresty Forrest stuff, but I've only watched a few videos here and there. I didn't see him get kidnapped in Mexico. That's wild. Yeah, I still enjoy Mexico. I would still go. Oh, before he did YouTube. Okay, yeah. I would still go. I've gone several times, but it's just, I mean, anything in life, there's risks. And so it's just one of those things, right? You just gotta, if you want, take a calculated risk. If not, stay in America. But depending where you're at in America, there's some sketchy places. There's some cities where you could get carjacked or jumped, or you never know what's going to be safe. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up, guys. I'm gonna sign off. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I gotta make some food. So that's it for me. Thanks for tuning in. We did 2 hours tonight. We did a marathon. I'm gonna have a published video from this spot right here, going a little more in depth about my stay. Going live Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific. So that's it from me. I'll see you guys next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Same time, same place, same channel. And I appreciate all the super chats tonight. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. Every dollar you guys contribute is going towards the next box truck build, which is only a few months away. So that's it for me. This is Nomad Brad signing out. Peace.